Everybody, we are back. It is Taped On Live, favorite is podcast, favorite is channel, favorite is everything. We are back. You guys already know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, subscribe. Hit the like button if you like it. Hit the dislike button if you don't like it. Leave a comment if you like it. Leave a comment if you don't like it. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter at DMarkJohnNFL for me, at BD Williams 18 for BD. Also, hit Panda Supplements up, pandasubs.com. Discount code TDL for 35% off. All right. BD, we are here with our, we're going to do a little mock draft. We did one earlier, but I think around like February, right? February, March,
Yeah.
maybe.
Look, Steve's in the comments. First comments, he's saying we haven't done a mock draft. I mean, we had to have done a mock draft, right?
Yeah, we did one earlier. We did one.
Yeah.
So this one's gonna be what we're doing 4 rounds. We're doing the first 4 rounds. I'm not gonna do all 7. I still think that's overkill for mock drafts doing 7 rounds, but I'm gonna do 4.
Right.
Get the first 5 picks. You're not gonna do any trades or anything like that, but you are gonna kind of get an idea of what I think the Raiders are gonna do. This has nothing to do with what I would do. But I just want to put that out there too. This is nothing to do with what I would do. This is what I think the Raiders might do for some of their picks. So. BD, how you feeling, man? How you feel about the draft coming up, and what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably like the draft that I have been the least invested in as like a Raiders fan in a while, and that's just because I'm not very confident about like what this staff is going to get. Like we saw what they were able to achieve with like some pretty good pieces. So like I'm not super excited about like now going from veterans to now rookies, and but I mean we'll see. I'll be cautiously optimistic about it, but I still don't have really a sense of like what this staff and what the general, the front office, the general manager, like the identity they have, and like the type of players like that they develop. Like I haven't seen that. Like we saw a little bit. We saw some flashes of some things with Gruden, some positive signs. Obviously, there was like enough negative where Gruden is no longer here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But like at least there was an identity. Like we had an idea. Right, like the Gruden grinder kind of thing, and like, what was the whole Mike Mayock thing? About like playing special teams war daddy. Like
Tanner Views.
Right, yeah. Like there's like at least an identity. Like you had an idea. Like whereas this, I appreciate like the research that you've done here, but it definitely feels like a shot in the dark.
It is a shot in the dark. I'm trying my hardest, especially with like 7. I definitely went back and forth on that one a lot.
Yeah,
it's definitely like some of it is like, do I trust my research and just say, hey, you guys, you can't be that dumb, or do I trust like what I've been trying to figure out what they're gonna do? Because with running back, they're really easy. Like kind of last year was a little bit easier because I mean it was back end and you kind of figure out what they're going to do. But when you're picking at 7, and even with you can't even go back to find a time where they even pick this high. These two, they've never really picked this high.
Good
right?
point.
They never really had a point in any of their careers that they've had to pick in the top 10. I mean, they've had Tom Brady, who's kept you out of that. Bill Belichick, even without Tom Brady, has kept them out of that. Recently, Patriots are picking probably like 17 or something like this right now. Even with Mac Jones, when they got Mac Jones at 15. So they never really picked this high. So this is uncharted territory for them, in my opinion. And that's what's gonna get interesting is what do they value? What do they decide is this? Because this team has a lot of needs. What do they feel like they can get at the top of this position? Top of this draft. And that's gonna be the interesting part for me because they've never done this before. This is brand new to all of them. Picking this high, they didn't even traded up into the top 10 before. They usually trade back. With in New England, they're trade back guys. Do they do that? Do they end up trading back? It's going to be interesting to see how they feel about picking here. because yeah, there's a lot of options, and I feel like a quarterback's going to fall to them, and that's going to be the interesting part. Do they take a quarterback, or do they like, oh, we're going to play it
Right.
safe and we're going to try to win it out with Jimmy Garoppolo and a veteran, and draft somebody else, because it's going to be interesting to see how this goes.
So that I think is a really good segue to some scenarios I'm going to throw at you before we jump into the mock draft. Okay, so before we get into the 4-round mock draft, I got two scenarios I'm going to throw your way here. So first of all, it seems like there's a bunch of anonymous people in the media talking to media pundits that have been slandering CJ Stroud's name recently. Perhaps there's a scenario where CJ Stroud is available at 7, right? What do you think the outcome of that would be? Do you think the Raiders, like, that's a perfect dream scenario for the Raiders? Is that their guy? Do the Raiders make that pick? Are these question marks about CJ Stroud valid? What do you think happens?
Yeah, I think the off the field question marks about CJ Stroud are stupid. Just because you hear people talk about him, he's obviously a leader. He has very, very high intangibles. I mean, he went out there and won at the Elite 11. Nobody even heard of him, right? And that probably took what did that take, right? You're going out there with all those big time quarterbacks and all those guys. He's out there with Bryce Young, who's always been heralded. CJ Stroud has never always been like that. I mean, he didn't really get scouted until after he won Elite 11. So, right. So I think a lot of that is kind of weird. I have my own thoughts about that in the NFL with how they feel about, black quarterbacks and where they want to take them and how many have ever gone going top 5, and the Texans kind of like, oh, we don't want him. It's just weird to me a little bit, but I mean, there is a possibility he'd be there at 7. And, my hope is that the Raiders would take him. My gut feeling, and, just from what they like in, measurables and athletic measurables and stuff like that with quarterbacks, says they might want to pass on him and just, the little bit of the Ohio State offense and stuff like that. But my hope would be that they would kind of suck that up. I know Todd McShay says they like him, but everything else points to them not liking him.
Yeah.
Right. Just from historically what they like at quarterbacks, just from the size perspective, he's 214. They haven't drafted anybody under 217. All that other stuff. He didn't run any of the athletic drills. He didn't do a broad jump or anything like that. So I think that kind of, go far with them. Same thing with Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson might be there at 7 too. The way the buzz is going with him, I think he was having that buzz. He was going really high at 1, but then he might be there at 7 too. And how do they feel about him? And that's going to be interesting to see is how they feel about these quarterbacks. I think we're going to find out, because on my quarterback podcast, I mentioned this. I said the Raiders are going to decide whether CJ Stroud falls. I think he's going to get to that point, and it's going to be on them to decide how far he falls or where he goes. Do they allow somebody to trade up into 7 to that above them? Like, the Texans could trade back right into the first round, right? They're at 12. I think that's a big factor here too, is that the Texans, yeah, they might not take him at 2, but do they like him enough where they feel like he's going to fall, that they could trade back up into it and decide that he can take that? So, yeah, I mean, me personally, yeah, I would take CJ Stroud there, because I think the Raiders need a quarterback really bad. I think that's pretty much. I know some people, want to believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. I think it's the biggest need that they have is a quarterback right now. It's the biggest need over anything else. So I would do that. I just know I don't know if they feel that way. I don't know if they feel like that's the biggest need, because they brought in Brian Hoyer too. So, he solidifies the backup position for them. So,
yeah,
we'll see how that goes. Because I think they try to trade up to 1 right early on at the combine. That's before free agency, right? They try to figure out how to get up to 1, right? And then once they couldn't, they ended up signing Jimmy G after that. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they feel about these quarterbacks, man. I don't. Yeah, we'll see. Because the way Levis is, they talk about Levis. CJ Stroud might go to the Colts now, because people were saying that Levis might go to the Colts. Now they're saying CJ Stroud might go to the Colts. So it might be Levis at 7 and that falls to them. And they decided they like him too, which, they take the.
I mean, man. That's what I was gonna say. Like, it seems like they would value Levis above Stroud, right? So for me, like, my gut feeling is at 7, if both those quarterbacks are the 2 quarterbacks who are available, I would be willing to bet that they would go Levis over Stroud, just based off of like what you've shown us off of their history and everything like that, you know. And I understand, but to be honest with you, I'm not sold on either of those guys. To be quite honest with you, so I don't think that they're like in the same caliber as some of these like really great prospects that have come out in recent
Yeah,
years.
there's ways you can win with them, and I think they're good. I think a lot of these guys have potential to be top 20 guys. It's just ceilings for some of them. You know, you got to figure out what the ceiling is. I mean, Bryce Young has a high ceiling just because he's a great quarterback. But you know, Anthony Richardson his ceiling's through the roof, right? And then his player tribune article made me want to draft him. So you know,
Right.
he says I'm going to work harder than everybody else to figure out what's wrong with my issues. I think that's a big factor. But yeah, of course, you know, I want the Raiders to draft a quarterback. I'm not going to lie to anybody else. I mean, I think they need to. And if they're going to draft one, I'm not the type of guy like, oh, we can get a development guy in the third or fourth round type of thing. But you know, that's kind of how I feel about it. I wish they would. That's kind of my dream. As a Raiders fan, I would want them to draft a quarterback, and I really don't care. I would like them to draft any of these guys. To be honest, I wouldn't be that mad if they took Will Levis because I'd be like, okay, if you're a good coach, you can figure out a way to win with him. You could find a way to use his legs. You know, I wouldn't be. Yeah, I just think they need to figure out something there right away. So,
Will Levis to me, that's like a late first. You know, if you're really sold on the person, you're like, okay, I want to get that fifth year. You know what I'm saying? But that's like closer to a second round for me. And then, I mean, Stroud is like thrown to all these NFL guys in a clean pocket and everything like that. So, I mean, we would see how good Stroud would be in like, you know, an offense that wasn't like light years ahead of the competition that he was playing against all the time. So, I mean, we see what happens with Ohio State in the playoff too, each and every year. But
yeah, I mean, but that was his best game though, man. I mean, he is a gamer though. I would say that he always plays best when they need him to. Absolutely, Ohio State. That's what I really liked about him. When they needed him to make the throws, like he had some awesome throws against Iowa, kind of put that game away in the fourth quarter. So that was kind of some of his best throws I've seen on tape. So yeah, like I said, I wouldn't mind him though. I would actually be kind of excited because I think he could. There's ways you can win with him, and same thing with any of these guys. But I mean, they're not like, which you know, 2024 is interesting. I'll just say that.
yeah, there might be even some better quarterbacks in 2024, but that's a debate for another day. I got another scenario I'm going to throw at you here before we move on. Let's talk about trading in the first round specifically. Okay, what do you think is a more likely scenario to happen? The Raiders trading back and getting more picks, or a certain quarterback maybe falling further than they anticipated, and then maybe jumping up a couple spots, maybe like to pick 4 or 5 even to jump ahead of someone to get a quarterback that might be falling. Which scenario do you think is more likely to happen?
Trading back. I think them trading back, and maybe if they like, I mean, if they have a good feeling of what's happening around them and the player that they really want, because obviously they're targeting the player, right? I think at this point it's Wednesday. I hope they have a player targeted. You know what I mean? So they have somebody that they could target, they could trade back, right? Get more picks and still get that type of player, especially if they don't want a quarterback. I think that there's a lot of options here, especially with teams behind them that want a quarterback. And like I said, the Texans are there. The Titans are there. If they don't want a quarterback, there's somebody that they could, trade back with the Titans or the Texans, and they can come up and end up taking somebody there. But yeah, I see that more as a more likely scenario. But I mean, just from the history of what they did. I mean, they traded up last year in the fourth round. They moved around in the fifth round, so it is a possibility for them. But I would think if they like a quarterback, they should trade up for him. But it might be a defensive player too, man. If they feel like they really like a defensive player and they feel like they're not going to get him, especially with the Lions. Like, let's say they like Weatherspoon or something, because Weatherspoon is getting top 5 talk now. He might go 3 to the Cardinals, something like that. So he's getting some really high talk, and they decide he starts to fall, and they feel like the Lions might take him. They might jump him because they really like Weatherspoon. I think they're really connected to him. So, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
If Witherspoon is a top 5 pick, then this is not a great draft. Honestly, you know, Witherspoon's not in the same caliber as Sauce or Stingley.
Yeah.
You know, he's not up there. He's not. You know, he's not like Jalen Ramsey caliber prospect coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's in my opinion he's the cleanest one coming out this year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, it's just like in comparison to years past, he wouldn't be, you know, like my number one if he's coming out with Sauce Gardner or you know like these other guys. So just keep that in mind, you know, everyone. If truly if he does go top 5, I just think that this is probably not the strong like the most talented draft ever. If that's the case.
It isn't. It isn't. That's a yeah, but that's a different conversation for. I mean, you just look at the top 10, man. It's such influx of you know what they're gonna do. I mean, there's gonna be lineman. Paris Johnson now might go top 3. He might go 3. You know, he kind of fell off, and now he's back in the top 10. You know, everybody's just kind of it's everywhere, man, and that's why we don't know what's gonna happen. Really, I mean, it kind of makes it more exciting for the NFL. I mean, us watching, we have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as like an event to watch, yeah, like this is an up in the air draft. I really think that getting this one right, like for all the analysts and experts and everything like that, I don't think they have a good idea of what's going on in this one. So we'll see, though. You know, I mean, it's be a lot of surprises.
Yeah, because I mean, Tyree Wilson's getting buzzed to go number 2. Tyree Wilson, I like Tyree Wilson, I do, but man, he is not a top 2 draft pick. He's just not. You know, because even if you compare Will Anderson, which is just terrible to say, if you compare Will Anderson, if he was coming out with Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa, he'd probably be like the 3rd guy taken, Will Anderson himself. So
yeah.
Right, or like even like those type of prospects. So just even the guys that are at the top of the draft,
right? I mean, Will Anderson. I think Will Anderson because he's been around. Like they've been talking about Will Anderson for so long. I think that it's just kind of like some of the buzziness has kind of dropped off. Whereas those other guys, like bro, we've been talking about Will Anderson for like 6 years, bro.
That's true.
This dude was like a junior. This guy was a junior, all right, in high school when we were talking about him. Okay, like we've been known about this dude. I mean, that's a really good point. Like he might be the number 1 pick. Like NFL has had their eyes on this guy, you know, from the time that he was still living with his mama. Okay, so it's you know, maybe just because it's not like as like new and fresh and everything like that. But I think Will Anderson would be up there definitely with like the Bosas and you know the Mac, you know Jadeveon Clowney, Von Miller types coming out, right? But don't forget, where did Marcus Davenport go? He went a lot higher than people were anticipating, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he went 14.
Teens, yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, to me, like Tyree Wilson, like for sure, especially in a weaker draft, like top 10, for sure. But I mean, top 2, that seems extreme. With all the quarterbacks,
Yeah, man, and it's over Will Anderson too is extreme. Over Will
Anderson. Oh, too. Come on, yeah, that's preposterous. Well, Anderson got to get that gas mask bong video that like tonight. It needs to drop now.
So you know? So I mean, there is a scenario where one of those guys could. That's what I'm talking about. The Raiders could trade up for somebody like that, and one of those guys ends up falling. I don't know if the Seahawks are that dumb. I don't think the Seahawks could let. I don't think the Cardinals are that dumb. I mean, I think the Cardinals are that dumb. So I'm not gonna say that.
Cardinals are that dumb.
Cardinals are that dumb to take Paris Johnson.
No. Actually, Cardinals would take Will Anderson, but they would like ask him to play like a dumb position,
play inside
for like a year. Like they do that with everyone. They every Buda Baker. They made him play a weird position. Finally, they're like, oh, the position that you played in college. Turns out that's actually what you're really good at. Shocking, you know. Hassan Reddick, they're like linebacker. He moves to defensive end where he played in college. He gets like 17 sacks. They're like, oh, that's interesting.
Isaiah Simmons, bro. Yeah.
Right. He finally was good last year. Oh, and he's doing all the stuff they did in college. Yeah, come on. They do that, but I mean, anyways, We're getting sidetracked here.
Okay.
I think we're good. We're good with the scenarios.
All right,
We got almost close to 100 people in here, so let's jump
let's
into
wait for them to start yelling at me. Let's go. I'm
yeah.
ready.
Let's jump into the mock draft. We're gonna go through 4 rounds here. So just real quick, how do you want to do it? You want to just start off? I'll just throw up the banners and then you can talk about it, and we'll do that.
Yeah. So yeah, let's do that. So do that, and then I'll put up the RAS. Show their athletic ability a little bit. We'll go over that, and then we'll put the highlight, talk about it a little bit.
All right, cool. All right, right on. All right, so starting out with round 1, pick 7. This one's gonna be an interesting one. I think we're gonna get some comments.
It's already happening, man. It's already happening.
Yeah.
So I'm going Skoronski to play guard.
Yes.
This is the pick that is not very exciting, but I think this is you're hearing a lot of buzz around it, and yeah, you probably say like well, there's buzz, doesn't matter, but man, I kind of eyed this one because the Raiders don't have a starting guard. Let's keep it real. They don't have a starting guard right now. They got Dylan Parham on one side. They feel like they can get another guard because that's what he's going to play. His arms are too short to play tackle. He could play some right tackle to fill in or something like that if somebody got hurt or something like that.
In a pinch, yeah, right.
He's going to play guard.
But he's a guard. He's a guard.
So yeah, I mean, if you look at his numbers, I mean, he's got the weight and all that stuff. You got the bench, of course, it's the length. But they see the athleticism is there, and he's one of the best down blockers you'll see. So I mean, if you just you just run the tape, and it's all Skoronski just moving people, moving guys, making it easy. Even you watch this one again, where he gets up to 22. Yeah, he's just a stud, and that's the thing. And to me, this pick is so interesting to me because it's not sexy, but dude, is this guy good? And he's the best offensive lineman in this draft. Like even like Duke Manyweather, all those guys, all the offensive linemen, they say he's the best offensive lineman in this draft. They make jokes about people making jokes about his short arms. So it's like, it's like you can't buy a jersey. The Raiders need defense, all these other things. But then you watch him block, and against this game of Ohio State is basically just money. Here's the jump set. His technique is always good. His hands are always inside. It's just not really anything he does bad. He's super clean prospect. He's safe too. Like you're getting a really good player when you watch Skoronski. Like you can see him here in pass protection. He's always good with his hands. Always first punching. He can bait guys. Watch him bait Zach Harrison here. You'll see it here. He baits him to punt, right? And then comes in, he punches really quick, kind of, shows that he can offers his chest up, and then, gets his hands in there. And then you used to watch him here on his down blocks.
He's always in control. This is
he's just moving, people, right? And down blocks all day. A good game to watch him. He played what offense was it? I think it was Illinois, against Illinois, where he was playing a lot of right tackle, played a lot of guard. They were switching it up and doing a lot of what was I say? What's the lines I'm looking for? The I can't even think of it. When they have more guys on one side.
Yeah, like the overload or tackle over.
Yeah, so I do think this is a bigger need than people like to say, because I think offensive line is big for them. I think it's big for what they need to do, and especially having Jimmy Garoppolo. They need a good offensive line with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think this guy kind of solidifies it a little bit. I feel more comfortable, right? Yeah, I know most people would. I know most people would. I already know, but I've had a feeling for this for a while, especially when they didn't pick up any guards. Like Lutan Moody, they got Alex Bars. They don't have a starting right guard at all. They don't. Right. They don't have anybody who could play guard. It's going to be a challenge to move him inside a little bit, I believe. I mean, he's going to have a little bit of warts, but I think the down blocking and the run blocking is going to be there. It's not going to be a change for him there, and he's such a clean prospect that it's going to be.
The reason why I like it is this staff, or at least this staff has a background where they come from of drafting those really clean, really good offensive linemen who might not have like the perfect measurables, you know what I'm saying? But and they have a great track record of like getting better production than most of the league would have anticipated given they're not like prototypical size. So they have a track record of they come from a place where there's a track record of that. Let's see if they can do something like that. But I agree, that seems like the blueprint for this staff. That would be a scenario where I think a lot of people would be a lot more happy with that if they got Skoronski, if they traded back.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, he's the best from a technical standpoint. He's the best offensive lineman in the draft. So is it likely that he is going to be available, later on? I don't know. So yeah, I think Raiders are in a pickle if they really need an offensive lineman. So that's definitely an interesting one. That means that there's going to be maybe a quarterback pick later on. Let's see, Raider Nation. Stay tuned. Here we're going on to round 2, pick 38. Okay, round 2, pick 38. Talk to us about the player that you chose here.
So yeah, I went with Jack Campbell at 38, linebacker from Iowa, which I think is the best linebacker in this draft by far. I think he is the only linebacker in this draft. Let's say that. I feel like there's a bunch of guys who play linebacker, right? But they play basically like a hybrid safety linebacker. This dude is old school. I'm going to punch you in the mouth. I'm going to come downhill.
Yeah.
I'm going to I'm going to take on guards. I'm going to take on centers. I got the power to take on these players. I got the play strength to take on these type of guys. So you got to kind of tell I'm very fired up if they took a Jack Campbell. But
I think this is a great pick. It matches what Patrick Graham wants to do from a linebacker perspective. He has experience playing in that odd front, coming downhill, taking on, he has great film taking on blockers. He's a throwback, like you're saying. He is that 2005 linebacker, sideline to sideline between the tackles, and he's got the size to back it up. You're going to throw the RAS card up, when this graphic gets done here. I mean, and we could talk about really what he brings just from that physical standpoint to this defense. And I really do think that that's been a missing ingredient for Patrick Graham's defense. So I
want to highlight this play with the robot right here, where he's able to kind of just read that and get a one-hand interception. So you see how he is in zone and play coverage too. He's just complete, man. It's him all day. He's there. I feel like that's a great pick at 38, and I think that kind of helps the defense get a lot better. I think he's going to have a pretty good year one, and I think his ceiling to me is like Leighton Vander Esch, who was really good. If he never got hurt, Leighton Vander Esch was a great linebacker for a little bit. Even this past year, he had a resurgence where his 10th year that he was able to come back and show how great he was. So that's why I think his ceiling is that Leighton Vander Esch type of player, and I really really like him. Definitely a pick for me that I think can really help this defense out. So, and linebacker is a huge need. I don't think do they have a starting linebacker right now? Who's the starting linebacker for them at the middle linebacker position?
Yeah, that Mike. I mean, yeah, we'll see if Tavon Diablo gets a crack at it. But I think perfect. This is exactly the kind of every time I'm flipping on a Patrick Graham tape from years past, this is the type of linebacker that plays, that spot. I do think he'll be coveted by this staff for sure. And in the second round, pick 38, you get a guy who is going to be a starter day one, right? You come from Iowa in order to be a starter or captain or whatever at Iowa. You're going to be ready for the professionalism of the NFL. So I think that you get kind of plug and play guys from that program generally. I think for picking in the second round, getting a surefire starter for at least a few seasons, as long as his wheels don't fall off, pretty good value in the second round.
All right, yeah, I really like him, man. That's really one of my favorite players in this draft. So, so this next one is just, it's going to be funny because. They really have been searching for slot receivers. They've met with four or five slot receivers. And I really feel like they're going to take a slot receiver really early. And I really feel like it's going to be, I have a feeling it's going to be Josh Downs. I think Josh Downs, if you put on the tape, he's everything they want in a slot receiver. And you can kind of tell that they're kind of pushing Hunter Renfrow out a little bit, even with all the rumors and things. And they can move him after June 1st and things like that. But they met with Zay Flowers. They met with Tyler Scott. They met with Marvin Mims, who could be an option here. I almost took Marvin Mims here because they met with him as well. But I went with Josh Downs, and I played the tape, man. It's about to be, just put the highlights on. It's kind of, you kind of see what he does a little bit at the wide receiver position. And if you don't think they're going to take a wide receiver pretty early, I beg to differ on that one. I think that there's too much research on these guys. This is too much research. He has a huge vertical leap. You can kind of see here. He's able to high point the ball from the slot, right? He's just and this is one of my favorite ones. You kind of see him kind of read it, stop in between the zone. Of course, that's a little Drake May highlight right there. Kind of show this throw by Drake May, but you kind of see him sit in the zone right there. He's that type of player. This is a crazy throw. I just watched that throw like 3 times. It's crazy. And then you see here, they run a lot of the seams. He's got the 4.48 speed. He can get up on that goose route. He could get the seams up there. It's another thing he could do. And then he's just a nasty route runner from the slot. And yeah, he could be a special player from inside. And they want to run the 2 slot system. And and I think Jacoby Myers can play outside. So I really feel like this is a type of pick that's gonna, not make 2 people too happy because they need more defense. But I really feel like they're gonna go after a wide receiver. And they just do too much research on it for them to kind of pick it. Maybe they're thinking later, but if you're doing Zay Flowers, you're doing Marvin Mims, you're doing players like that who are gonna be picked in the top 100 picks, you're taking a wide receiver. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there.
You brought up Zay Flowers. Was Zay Flowers available at any of these slots that you were looking at here, or was this?
See, I think this wide receiver class is really weird. So I think Zay Flowers is getting pushed up a lot. I see him getting a lot of first round buzz. He's really high on Daniel Jeremiah's ratings and stuff like that. And that's why I think, but the real point is that they brought Zay Flowers in. So why would they bring in Zay Flowers knowing he's going to get picked at least by 38? They taking Zay Flowers at 38, or what are they trying to look at? What are they trying to find out? Why are they meeting with Marvin Mims? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Marvin Mims is a slot guy who runs the seams and does all those slot things too. Was really good with Caleb Williams the year before. This year's a little different. Why are they meeting with him, right? And why are they meeting with Tyler Scott, who's a slot guy who runs deep routes from the slot and runs corner routes and post routes from the slot and stuff like that. So I think the research that they're doing there kind of shows that they're looking at guys, and I think they're going to pick a guy who's not really out there for you to believe that they met with, but I think they're doing research on some of these guys, and that's why I almost went Marvin Mims here, but I think Josh Downs is just a better player.
Let's take a look at his RAS card here. As far as like that, obviously the height and the weight, he's a smaller guy, but he definitely makes up for it in a lot of different areas. Very explosive, very quick, very fast. Definitely that prototypical is what you think of it, as far as like a slot receiver goes.
Yeah.
For Josh Downs here. That style of offense that he was playing in, is that something that players have had success coming in to the NFL out of?
Bro, who's the last guy to come out from that offense, though? There's only been 2 guys to come out. The guy from Washington, forgot his name, that the deep threat that was played with Sam Howell the year before, but De'Ami Brown.
Yeah.
Brown. He had some pretty good plays this past year. He's a deep threat, though, but I think Josh Downs is a totally different player. I think the slot. I'm thinking slot receiver and what they like, and whatever they feel about Hunter Renfrow, you can kind of tell that they're not really the highest on him, in my opinion. And I think I think they're trying to look for somebody that can play slot, because that's what Zay Flowers is, man. So that's I think the Zay Flowers meeting was my red flag to they really are looking for a young slot guy that they can come in and play wide receiver. So it's a little bit of a luxury pick, kind of a little bit, if you feel like the team needs, but this could be interesting.
Right. All right. So that was the first 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
But now, obviously, the Raiders acquired another 3rd round pick via trade here. So we're going to jump into this one. This is the 2nd 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
You go with Julius Brents, corner from Kansas State.
Yes, sir. So the highlights a little together. So we'll put the highlights when I get to Luke Shoemaker. So we'll talk about this one because I put the highlights together.
Yeah.
But Julius Brent, I think this is the kind of corner that they want, press corner. Another guy that I was looking at was Corey Trice, who's another guy that's a really good press corner who I think they're going to like a lot too. And somebody that might bring in. And of course, I mean, there's like Eli Ricks, guys like that. But I think Julius Brent is a good value for him here. I think he's created a lot of buzz for himself with that athletic profile. And of course, I mean, we're a fan of TDL of Julius Brent. So I think that's going to be a good pick there in the third round, kind of somebody that they can, come in, play press coverage, get physical, somebody they can build around with a lot of length and, athleticism as well that they can build around. And I think that's what they're looking for. They're looking for more press guys because even the guys they picked up, like, you could speak to that a little bit more, BD, but like David Long, the Duke Shelleys, I think those guys are more press guys themselves. So I really like that one though with Julius Brents.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Julius Brents. I honestly don't think that he will be available at 100, but he's definitely a top 100 player. But in a weaker draft, I would imagine him going. But that's just my gut feeling on it. I'll talk about it when we go through the highlights. He does some really good stuff for being. It's not just a project. We've seen projects go maybe even a little higher than this. He's not just a project. He's got some skills. So there's a lot of good things to go with Julius Brents there. So, but you're saying that the highlights are together. So
yeah,
let's talk about your next pick. Just 9 picks later, Raiders are going to be on the board. 9 picks later, and so round 4, pick 109. You're going with Luke. How do you say this guy's name?
Schoonmaker. Luke Schoonmaker, tight end for Michigan. Now, his buzz has been rising. That's why because I originally did take Corey Trice here. I was like, I took Corey Trice, but I really feel like they like Luke Schoonmaker because he's gonna fit the whole profile they like at tight end. He's 6'5". Well, let me pull that up right here. Make sure I can get the stuff right. But yeah, he's 6'5". He's 251. 33-inch vertical. That broad jump is pretty damn good for a tight end. He runs a 4.63. His shuttle is crazy, and his three cone is crazy. And I think the best thing he does is block. He's really raw as a receiver and a pass catcher. So there's a lot there to like, and I think that's why they feel like this is a tight end that they'd be able to develop. Comes from Michigan, comes from a good program.
Yeah,
and I think he's going to be a good player that I really like. That I think he could be a future starting tight end for the Raiders if they ended up drafting him. And I think even if you change regimes, he can stretch the field. He's a good route runner too. He just wasn't utilized that way that much in that Michigan offense when they were asked to run the ball as much as they did. But he did his job there too because he's a great run blocker.
Yeah, like in the Michigan games I watched, it seemed like he was consistently making like a clutch play. Right, he's like one of those guys where it's going to be 3rd and long, and he comes down with a combat catch or something like that. And to your point about him not being used a lot, tight ends aren't going to see a lot of volume in college. Like period.
Yeah.
Like the tight ends who see a lot of volume is like 40 catches would be a lot. That would be huge volume for a tight end in college. So seeing like these guys have like 23 catches or something like that, that's actually pretty good volume for a college tight end, especially in like a Big Ten. Did you watch Michigan? They ran the ball like crazy.
Yeah, like 75% of the time they were the ball.
So anyways, all right. So let's jump into let's jump into it. Let's jump into the Schoonmaker and Brents breakdown. So I'll talk about Julius Brents. He's an edge corner. Look at this guy. He's huge. He looks like he's playing defensive end out here. He's got the length. He's got the levers to handle it, taking on these Alabama offensive linemen, getting in on these on a tackle. He has the size to really get dirty, not just in the pass game, but also in the run game. Very willing tackler, willing in run support. But, really what he does best, in my opinion, is his work in press man coverage, because he utilizes that length of his to really just blanket wide receivers going up against Quentin Johnson. He had a really fun slugfest heavyweight match going up against Quentin Johnson, likely first-round pick, and he held his own there going up against him.
So Schoonmaker, you just see right here, this the blocking ability right there, springing a 70-yard run to start the game against TCU from the backfield. That's something the Raiders really like. But one thing I really like about him, here's another block too from him. You see 86. He's a second inline tight end there with the little gray shirt. See him, he's able to block a defensive end. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot to like from him. And then of course he can stretch the field. From the slot position, see him stretch the field right here, run a great route, get open. There's just a lot to like about him. I thought he was gonna be like a 5th round guy, but I keep seeing people, be higher on him than I thought that I was gonna be. So definitely a player that I like. So we'll see.
I mean, this is definitely a year to get a tight end for multiple reasons. It seems like this is one of like the deepest position groups in terms of NFL talent is coming out this year. I've heard a lot of things about a lot of different tight ends. So that in combination with Darren Waller recently departing, there's a void here, right? Like this is definitely the year to get a tight end. I think that's historically a position where you can get value, you can get starters, you can get guys who are like really good in the mid rounds. Like you don't have to invest super high necessarily to get a great tight end. Think about where George Kittle was drafted. Think about where Travis Kelce was drafted. Even Darren Waller, but he was a wide receiver when he came out, right? So I like that. And just tuning into some Michigan games, I've seen Shoemaker make some really good plays as well.
Yeah, because I almost took Corey Trice there. I kind of wanted to. I really did want to take Corey Trice there, just because I feel like I didn't do enough defense here, but I feel like they're gonna throw us a bone and do more offense than we believe. So we're prepared for, because one, I think the offense is not as good as people thought it was, and I think it has a little bit more, especially at guard, tight end. There's a big hole, and even they might feel like there's a hole at slot receiver. Just even think about like how they want to work that in, or how they feel about Hunter Renfrow. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they do with that. So that's why, because when I was done with it, I'm like, man, I probably should have added some more defense here, but I just think that they got an offensive coach, and I think there's going to be a lot more offense than we expect. So,
right,
yeah. Is there any questions in the chat or anything like that? We get anybody yelling at me?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are some people who are probably. That's my favorite one.
I mean, Josh Down's a good player, though, man. I took some good players. So these are all good guys. So I think that even with
That's good.
I mean, these are all good guys, though. I think that they're all guys who can help the team in some way, some fashion. But I do think I'll say a couple of things. I think with the wide receiver thing, I just think they're going to take a wide receiver in the first 4 rounds. There's going to be some wide receiver they're going to take. Maybe they don't take one at 70. I just don't be surprised by that. I'm just trying to help you guys, not help the shock value of them taking a wide receiver earlier than you think. But I do believe they probably will do like maybe a run on corner at some point, because there is a lot of depth there at the cornerback position. I think they got to do a run on that. But they got all those 5th round picks, and they want some press coverage. Who knows is going to fall to them? Who knows if they're going to trade back up and do those things? But yeah, it's a strong feeling I have just from the research they have. They're going to take a wide receiver way earlier than anybody really thinks. I mean, you can see all the wide receivers they added in free agency, man. They really feel like that the position is not set, right. And in the Philip Torres set is 30 and making minimum wage, so they're definitely looking for a speed guy type of thing, and that's why I think they looked at some of the guys they look at. But yeah, because it might be Marvin Mims, but who knows?
I mean, right? I mean, if you get wide receiver right at that spot, that alone, But there's a couple ones. Skoronski, that'll be, I think. Fans would bemoan that one, but I think that would be a really good pick. And then also, I'm really high on Julius Brents too. I think he could be a really good player in the NFL. So I'd be over the moon if that was 100. Pick 100. So that's about it here. I mean, if you want to hit us up in the chat, tell us what you think was the best value pick in
Was it
this draft.
terrible?
You know, be prepared. But honestly, like I love the whole draft day overreactions. I love that, and especially in a draft like this where it is a weaker draft, like what our idea is, like the consensus like draftnik community or whatever is going to be like pretty far off on like what reality is. Like, let's be honest. So like you can say all the things that you want, like we don't know like who it got in trouble, for buying prostitutes, like, and who's had multiple gun, arrests and stuff like that. Like we don't know that. These guys, the NFL knows that. So when guys start dropping and falling, you can't say like the NFL's stupid. Like
Who had a birthday party and nobody showed up? That's the big
right,
difference,
yeah, right. Like that's and that guy's gonna go postal in your building and keep that guy far away.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be interesting. It's especially because this is draft's gonna be crazy. I feel like it's gonna be something stupid like Eli Ricks is gonna go like in the third round because he went to Alabama. He's guys like yeah. See, I don't like it. I'll say this. I think the thing that I just didn't want the wide receiver one kind of bothers me the most of any of the picks that I've made. It even bothers me that I even thought to have to go there, and I feel like that might happen. But it's just too much research, man. I just why are you talking to Marvin Mims? Like, what are you talking to him about? What do you want to know? What Zay Flowers? Like, what is he? Why are we talking to Zay Flowers? What is he gonna do? He's gonna. I'm saying you picking him at 38. That's when you guys get mad. They take Zay Flowers or something. They trade back in, takes that. Yeah, exactly. And you got Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm with that too, Drew. I do. I am with that. It's kind of like that's my guy. That's my guy right there, Anthony Richardson. That is my guy.
Oh, this is a good one. Even if you think they are this bad at drafting, which they really aren't, this is a stretch. Yeah, you know what, Trev? Okay, you're giving them a lot of credit, and this is a weak draft. There's some good players. We'll see. There's definitely going to be guys who are picked later that outperform guys who are picked higher. I mean, that happens first of all in every single draft, but I think this is a prime one for that. Plus, there's going to be wildly competingly different draft boards, and you're going to see teams jump ahead and pick people that we have not even mentioned or no one has even talked about as far as the first round goes. You're going to see, I predict quite a few surprises in the first round. So it's going to be fun for for the for your viewing pleasure. And the Raiders pick early, so we can get on this live reaction quick. Marcus, how are we going to do it? How are we going to do it for the people? What should we do?
We'll go on live tomorrow, and then Matt Holder's joining us tomorrow. So it's going to be me, you, and Matt on the live show.
Are we gonna do it like starting like as soon as the draft starts, or like as right after the Raiders pick? What do you think?
I was gonna do. I think me and Matt could go at 5, and then
yeah. Okay, cool.
And then we'll do it that way because we never know. I mean, with the Raiders trade up, I think kind of that exciting, and they might trade back into the first round, so that's why we can't react because they're at 38. So
we don't know. They could trade back. They trade back. Yeah. All right. So we'll be on as soon as the draft starts. You turn that on your TV, you mute it, and you listen to TDL. We'll provide all the in-depth analysis. Okay, Matt and Marcus have been going hard this year, watching all these guys. And as far as the first round goes, I will have intelligent things to say about the first rounders for the most part. So I'll be involved in that as well tomorrow.
I will say this is definitely the hardest draft for me to grind through. I'm sure. Matt probably feel the same way. I think it's one of the hardest drafts to grind through.
For sure.
Just because when you get past like the top 10 guy, But I do have some of my guys in the back end. I'm really hoping they take Blue to play center. The center from Michigan. I really like him. So Yeah.
All right, yeah, Center for Michigan. I'm also gonna shout out just so I can get it on the air. I said it. It's here for posterity. Marte Mapu from Sac State. I'm just gonna throw his name out there. He's a linebacker. I think he's a modern linebacker. Let's see. I'm just gonna try to speak that one into existence.
Okay. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Just I'm just kind of it's research, but I am just throwing shit at the wall. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed the mock draft. Everything we talked about. We'll be back tomorrow covering everything. We're gonna be here all weekend with you guys doing a reaction to all the Raiders draft picks. So definitely check that out and be on the lookout for that. I think I'm gonna be on the Guilty as Charged podcast. I'm going with the enemies, so on Friday. But so check that out, and I'll make sure that I rep Raider Nation hard over there. So
All right, that's it. Sounds good.
all right, guys, peace.
Holla at you, Raider Nation.